The ANC's new best friend has just been attacked by the USA and Israel. But is the South African government next? Here's what happened. So those of you who follow the channel will know that last week, Cyril Ramaphosa made headlines when he decided to attend a conference in Barcelona whereby the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez decided to create a global anti-Trump alliance. Now, it was during this specific conference when Ramaphosa had plenty to say about Western imperialism and Israel and all of the usual adversaries of the ANC. And then at the end of the conference, he decided to have a photo up whereby the entire anti-Trump global alliance had a photo together, and Ramaphosa decided to stand right next to Pedro Sanchez, front and center. And so there's no doubt that he is one of the ones who are spearheading this movement. However, it appears that Sanchez and Ramaphosa and all their friends might be a little in over their heads, because the United States and even Israel have decided to take action against them. But before we get into this, could I please remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already? It's completely free to do, and all you have to do is click on the subscribe button below the video. If you would like to support the channel and enjoy some additional perks, consider becoming a Power Club member. You can do so by clicking on the join button below the video. Now let's get started. So the United States action against Spain has actually come from an email from the Pentagon, whereby it's claimed that the US is looking to suspend Spain from NATO, punishing other allies over their Iran war conduct. As we can see here, it explains that an internal Pentagon email outlines options for the US to punish NATO allies it believes failed to support US operations in the war with Iran, including suspending Spain from the alliance and reviewing the US position on Britain's claim to the Falkland Island, a US official told Reuters. So it's important to remember that during his grand speech, Sanchez decided to focus on, first of all, attacking the US and Israel and their other allies, and specifically speaking about the Iran war. And for whatever specific reason, Spain has decided to almost effectively be anti-West and pro-Iran, refusing to cooperate with their traditional allies, which of course the US has taken note of. So the article continues that the policy options are detailed in a note expressing frustration at some allies' perceived reluctance or refusal to grant the US access, basing and overflight right, known as ABO, for the Iran war, said the official, who spoke on condition of anonymity. The email stated that ABO is just the absolute baseline for NATO, according to the official, who added that the options were circulating at high levels in the Pentagon. One option in the email envisions suspending difficult countries from important or prestigious positions at NATO, the official said. The Spanish Prime Minister decided to respond to the reports, saying, "We do not work off emails, we work from official documents and positions. Spain is a member of NATO, and I see no reason why that should change," a German government spokesperson said during a regular news conference in Berlin. And then US President Donald Trump has harshly criticized NATO allies for not sending their navies to help open the Strait of Hormuz, which was closed to global shipping following the start of the air war on February 28th. He also declared that he's considering withdrawing from the alliance. "Wouldn't you if you were me?" Trump asked Reuters in an April 1st interview in response to a question about whether the US pulling out of NATO was a possibility. But the email does not suggest that the US do so, the official said. It also does not propose closing bases in Europe. The official declined to say whether the options included a widely expected US drawdown of some forces from Europe, however, and asked for comment on the email. Pentagon Press Secretary Kingsley Wilson simply responded, "As President Trump has said, despite everything that the US has done for our NATO allies, they were not there for us. The War Department will ensure that the President has credible options to ensure that our allies are no longer a paper tiger and instead do their part. We have no further comment on any internal deliberations to that effect," Wilson said. And so it's very clear that while there have been rumors about the US potentially pulling out of NATO, it seems that the opposite could happen, whereby the US decides to remain in NATO and punish its allies who it believes are not upholding their part, which, of course, Spain seems to be the main culprit of doing. Still, it is not only the US who seems bent on punishing those who are deemed to be aiding the Iranian regime against the US and its allies. You see, an Israeli legal advocacy group has decided to file an ICC case against Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez over exports to Iran. Let's have a look. So it explains in this article that an Israeli advocacy group said that it had asked the International Criminal Court to consider legal action against Sanchez for allegedly aiding war crimes through exports to Iran. The complaint comes in the midst of an escalating diplomatic spat between the two nations, which began with the start of the Gaza war in October 2023 and worsened after Madrid recognized a Palestinian state a year later. Filed by the Shurat Hadin NGO, which has taken legal action worldwide against what it calls Israel's enemies, the lawsuit accuses Spain of providing components required by the regime in Tehran and its proxies for military purposes. In a filing submitted under Section Article 15 of the Rome Statute, it alleges that Spain approved the export of about 1.3 million euros worth of so-called dual-use products that could be used in detonators and other explosive-related applications. These materials are not innocent industrial products, but critical components that enable explosive devices to function, and they were transferred in circumstances where their use for attacks against civilians were foreseeable and reasonable, Shurat Hadin said in a statement. Now, this situation is incredibly important for us to understand. You see, much like Spain, South Africa, or specifically the ANC, has decided to take a very strong stance in the ongoing war, seemingly aiding Iran, or at least expressing their sympathies for Iran, while condemning the US and its allies. And one has to wonder what the repercussions for this will be. Now, of course, speculation is not something that we want to get into too much, but there is a track record of the US taking action against those who it considers to be its enemies, at least under the Trump administration. We saw the capture of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. We've seen the Iran war get underway. And of course, Cuba seems to be on the horizon as well, with the US government already negotiating with them. Even in South Africa, we've seen the Bilateral Relations Review Act of the United States already being introduced. We've seen a similar accompanying act in the Senate as well. And so it does seem that the US could be gearing up for action against the ANC in addition to these sorts of other parties. And given the fact that Ramaphosa has decided to view Sanchez and Spain as a close ally, and really position himself at the forefront of the anti-Trump global alliance, really doesn't seem to be a move that will bode well for him or the ANC in its entirety. One can only imagine what sort of action the US may end up taking. We'll wait and see. Thank you very much for tuning into this video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more content. Until next time, I'm Matthew Cohen, and this is the Power Pod.